At some point, it became very clear that I didn't just want to go work in another industry because I wanted freedom. And so what that meant for me was to really be able to dictate my schedule and say, this is how I want to work. I just want to work a few days a week, or I find working every day, but I want to have a lot of space in between to do stuff with my kids. And it was really getting clear about not only what I wanted to do, but how I wanted that to look.
Here is something you need to hear. You're not lazy. You're just misaligned. I'm Kepo. I help high performers get unstuck by taking bold, aligned action. And this is Grow With Kepo, where we speak with influential trailblazers who've made their mark and found the clarity that changed their lives. This is where we get clear, realign, and move toward a life that actually feels like yours. Welcome to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Grow With Kepo show. Today, I am so excited about the special guest that we have because, like you, she was also in a 9 to 5, and then she had her own light bulb moment. And fast forward to today, she's a leadership and career coach. I spoke with her behind the scenes, and you all, her story is amazing. I cannot wait for you to hear it and glean from it. Without further ado, I welcome to the show, Loree Phillips.
Oh, thank you, Kepo. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me on today.
When we connected one-on-one, I was like, okay, I think people actually need to hear your story. So why don't you walk us through what you were doing before in the 9 to 5 and kind of up until maybe when you had some kind of epiphany, like, wait, what am I doing?
Yeah, definitely. So I had actually quite a long career, 16 years. I was working professionally at Boeing. I was a strategy analyst. And I had gone through, jumped career, like different position after position after position. So it was going pretty well, to be honest. And I wasn't burned out. I wasn't necessarily unhappy, which is kind of interesting because if you would have asked me a couple years prior to the light bulb moment, as you talked about, I would have not even thought about, like, you would have said, Loree, you're going to leave your career of 16 years, you're going to start a business, and you're going to do your own thing. And I'd be like, girl, you're crazy. Like, forget it. That is so not me, because I guess I just was comfortable, to be honest. I was comfortable. But what really had happened was during COVID, and I know a lot of people had big transformations for themselves during COVID, even though there was a lot of, crap going on. I was working from home. So I had just like this extra space. I was a little bit further away from work than when I was going into the office every day. And I think that helped me see a little differently a perspective. But the moment that had happened is I was on a call, WebEx, standard weekly call. And I was listening to people talk about this or talk about that. And out of the blue, everything felt different. I could hear people talking, but what they were talking about was just not important information, or it sounded like they were just positioning because they wanted to get FaceTime and get their promotion and just saying what they needed to say. It just felt superficial. And the same problems that we had been talking about every call were again and again and again. And I thought to myself, is this what I want to do for another 15 years? Because at that point was halfway, if not less than halfway in my career. And I'm sitting here on this call and it just felt like total waste of my time. And so I think that's what shifted for me is I started looking at my time as valuable, especially in the face of COVID, when people were dying, when people were really caring for their health, when they had the end of their life kind of in your face. It's like, well, what about my life? Yeah, I get paid well to do this work, but am I making a difference? And so it was just a seed that was planted at that point. I did not wake up the next day and quit. I did not wake up the next day and think, okay, what am I going to do now? It was just this like perspective shift, an aha moment. And I could not look at anything the same again. It would not go away. So I probably at that point would have been happy if that thought just went away and I just went back to my work and I pretended like I never saw this shift, right? It would have been easier, but that's not what happened. And then I went on a process from there. And it took about a year and a half before I actually left from that point. I mean, and I completely left, right? I completely quit. I didn't have anything lined up or anything besides like a good idea of what I was going to do. That's how ingrained I was in that career. And people were so surprised that I was leaving and making a choice to go in what a lot of people feel like is quite risky, right? Going from a salaried position to, hey, I'm going to go start a business.
Wow. Okay. I don't know if you all picked up on something, but Lori literally said she wasn't burnt out. You said that you were not, it's not like you were feeling unfulfilled or anything. It was good. And sometimes for some people, that's exactly where they are. They're good. But then that is what comes in the way of a great life, right? And you said something, you said that it was when you had a bit of space,
Mhm.
COVID, a bit of space between home and work. It's almost like there was now room for you to actually think beyond autopilot or just think beyond your regular routine and what you're used to. And that is something that I want people to hear because sometimes we don't even know what it is we're doing, what it is we're building. Like, is this really what I want to do? But we don't even have the space to even think about that, to actually just reflect.
It's so important. And I will tell you, at some point along the way, I had told my boss, I'm like, if I ever ask for more than 2 weeks off for vacation, say no. And I told him that because I knew that if I took 3 weeks off of work, I would not come back because I would take a week off and I would come back with this like post-vacation blues, existential crisis. What am I doing with my life? Even though I have this beautiful career on paper, right? And so I think this space is important. And the other thing is when we're thinking about like a good career, a good life versus a great career and a great life. I had a lot of inner work to do during that time on deserving that. Because when I started my career and I walked in my first day at this big, Fortune 50 company out of college, I was going to be making more in my salary than my mom had been making after 20 years of being a school teacher. And so I already thought I had made it. And so why should I want more? And that right there, Kepo, is some of the work I needed to do. I had to work on that I deserve it. I had to work on that my career is something that like I can choose. It's up to me because I had a lot of people like my husband and like my family who expected me. They're like, you have this great job. Why aren't you keeping it? So I had other people that I cared their opinions about. I had to get past that. And I think when you're working this long in a career, it becomes part of your identity. This is who I am. When you introduce yourself, it's like, what do you do? Oh, I work at Boeing. I'm a strategy analyst. Consultant level, I've made it, right? This is who I am. And so there is a shift in, well, who am I if I'm not that? In that year's time, it didn't take me that long to figure out what I was going to do, but then it took me a little bit longer in smoothing things out with people. I did get some certifications in coaching during that time. So I got paid to do my job and I set myself up for success for when I was going to leave. But it was a difficult decision. But I think when you get to a point where it's so clear within yourself that that's what you want to do, like nothing's going to stop you. And that's how I felt. And people were just like, wow, you're so brave. And I'm like, well, I cannot see myself. Like I would die in 3 more months at this job, not because it's terrible, but because I wanted my freedom. And so that is also good to great. Like I was pretty good at my job and I wasn't trying that hard. So it's like, well, what if I actually spent all my time and energy on something I love? Like, how amazing could I make that? What kind of impact could I have for others and also do it for myself? I mean, all these things came up along the way.
Wow. Okay. At some point when we were talking, I was like, Lori, just drop the mic. We're done. Because especially where you talked about how your career becomes part of your identity.
Mhm.
And I see that a lot. And I see people struggle with, oh, I'm a director of VP at so and so. And then they have this other thing on the side that they don't even talk about, right? The moment somebody asks you, so what do you do? Oh, I'm a, you know, SVP of something, operation somewhere, and you forget to, that's for people that are even already have their side hustle. They kind of want to bury that, or they don't even want to talk about that side because it doesn't quote unquote seem as important. It doesn't seem serious or respectable in society. And so I'm so glad that you touched on that. And what I want people to learn in this is, what did you do? How did you walk through those mental struggles? Because I love what you said, it didn't take you long to figure out what it is you wanted to do next. It was all the other stuff,
Mhm.
your mindset around what you feel you believe, sorry, what you feel you deserve. Those are the things that, it took time to actually like peel those things off. So walk us through the work that you did, the inner work that you did.
Yeah, it's so interesting because the inner work doesn't just come out in a to-do list. We're like, "Okay, I realize that it's not so obvious," right? It's not like, "Oh, crap, I don't feel deserving. How do I fix that?" "Oh, well, I feel embarrassed to talk about this with my family," and I did. I had not a clue what else I wanted to do, and the reason why it didn't take me that long to figure it out is because I decided to hire a coach to help me walk through that very specific process. Like, what should I do if it's not this? Because I honestly had never thought about it. Because my career, I could have stayed there for 30, 40 years or whatever people do in careers anymore. And so I went through that process and I figured that out and I narrowed it down and I narrowed it down. And I'm like, oh, it's this. And then when I would hit a roadblock, something in me made me stop or something in me felt that embarrassed. Then I had to really look at it. Like, what is going on here? Because our bodies are designed to keep us safe. And so the fear that came up, the feeling of like self judgment or I'm not good enough, all that stuff that comes up is there to keep us safe and it feels bad. And then you just like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this, right? Like the instinct is to stop. But I will tell you, if you want something bad enough, you'll be willing to say, okay, let's take a peek behind the curtain. And it's not always pretty, right? Let's take a peek. But once you get through that, it's easier to move on to the next step. And you're not holding yourself back anymore. And it's not all at once. It's like, oh, I found that out. I didn't think I deserved all this. Now that piece of me is let go, and I've come to terms with that and loved it, that part of me, and released it or did whatever, and talked about it, whatever you need to do. And then I can go keep moving forward, and then something else stops you. So it's like it's not that smooth, but if you want the outcome, if you want great, if you want freedom, there's one thing, at least one thing everybody wants that's probably listening to this. Otherwise, they would just be happy in their 9 to 5 and they would be focusing all their energy on that. And so figure out what that thing is so it can help motivate you to get past all of the things that come up. Because the truth is, most things that stop us are not external, they're internal. It's ourselves putting us in a box. Oh, you're a director, this is your box. You spent all of your energy up until this point getting there. And I get that. Like, I totally get that. And it does feel good to tell it to people, and people are like, "Ooh, look at you, impressive." But if there's something within you that is saying, "But is there I'm meant for more," or "This isn't quite it." That's the part of you that you don't have to jump tomorrow, but just start listening to it. Just be open to it. Don't shut it down automatic. It'll keep coming up. I will tell you, it will keep coming up. So you might as well start now listening to your innermost like dreams and desires and thoughts, because for the most part, a lot of people don't end up in careers that they actually want. It was our model of success was built on what everybody else told us what success was. Like, I went to college and I chose to get a degree in finance because I was good at math. I had no other reason to do that. And then I got a job at a company because that's what people were like, oh, you want to do this and this will be successful. And I'm glad I did. I learned so much along the way, but I wasn't necessarily listening to myself. I was listening to others. And so this is the time where we need to listen to ourselves. And if it's just a whisper right now, that's fine, but listen to the whisper and it'll get a little louder, it'll get a little clearer. And you listen to it, and it will open up
Mhm.
at its own right timing for each person.
Hey, can I be real with you? Your next chapter isn't going to start itself. If you're in a job that drains you and you're tired of talking yourself out of your big ideas, it's time to move. In Raise Your Standards, my free 21-day challenge, I'll coach you step by step to get through fear, make clear decisions, and start building the work and life you actually want. Click the link in the description to join the next round or hop on the waitlist today. All right, now back to the conversation.
This is so good. This is so good. First of all, I want to just commend you on going completely against the grain, because it would have been so easy for you to calm down and not do anything because of the strong, close relationships around you that were not necessarily cheering you on, like, yeah, Loree, go quit your job. Like, no, what are you doing? Right. There is that. And there's the fact that you were fine at the job. You were getting paid well. You were doing good
Mhm.
job without even trying, right? You could have been like, please, I want to have my quote unquote balanced life, and just chill. I don't even need to make an effort. This is what most people think. This is what most people just, and like you said, our bodies are always trying to protect us, right? So if we're going outside of our comfort zone, it's like, whoa, calm down. Everybody calm down. Let's just hang out on the couch here and let's be safe. But you didn't do that. For me, it's almost like you need a lot of gravity, like launching a rocket, and you've just finally kind of pushed past that barrier. And I just want to reflect that back to you, because I think it's most people don't do it. They don't do it because
Yeah.
if you said, if I think for some people, it would be easier if they were burnt out. They were,
Yeah.
they hated the job and they weren't doing well, and
Mhm.
all the conditions were set. But for you, it's like everything is fine. Everybody's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and it makes me think of somebody I used to work with who ended up getting laid off, and she was extremely unhappy, and she waited until she got pushed out, right?
right.
And she went and found something else, and she's so much happier now. And so sometimes if we don't do it ourselves, the universe conspires to get us where we need to go, and it's not that pretty sometimes. It doesn't feel good to get laid off, doesn't feel good to go look for something else. And so we can wait for something like that to happen, for the stress of our work to create, medical condition in our body.
Hmm.
And that happens to people too. And so, or we can take our life into our own hands and start planning it ourselves. And I think where people get concerned is they think about it's this huge leap because it feels like it, and it does. It feels like a big shift, right? It's a big decision. The podcast that I had created during, since I've been in corporate is called Daring to Leap. And so the leap is like, wow, I did it. I'm doing something else. I'm not just going with the flow of the status quo, right? I'm choosing. But that leap could be a very small step for somebody right now. It doesn't mean you quit your job, leave it tomorrow. It could mean I start to really give myself that space every day, start thinking about it. even creating their life now a little bit better. Like, what do I love to do? And that usually helps people that have no idea what else they would want to do, is to start tapping into, their passions, their loves, things that they used to do that they don't do anymore. And that kind of opens up your heart to dream a little bit. And then for some people, entrepreneurship is never going to be what they want, and that's okay. There are a lot of other careers. I mean, there are even other industries. You could do the same exact thing you're doing for another industry, something you're more passionate about. I was working on attack helicopters for militaries. Like, I don't care about attack helicopters. I don't care about, it sounded cool. Like going to a bar and like having a guy come up and like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I sell attack helicopters to blah, blah, blah. And they're like, wow, that's so impressive. Yeah, it is. But it doesn't light me up, except for when somebody's like, hey, go you, right? Like, that's it. There's more. There's so much more. And so sometimes we have to just give ourselves the space to explore that a bit further. And then the ball starts rolling and then gets a little faster and then a little faster. And then all of a sudden you look back and you're like, I'm going to do this and nobody's going to stop me.
I can so relate to that in terms of, sometimes it's not the big leap or daring to leap is not a massive jump. It might be, like for example, maybe let's use you for example, you wanted to start your podcast, right? Or even me. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to buy the mic and I'm going to name my podcast, and I'm going to record the first one. It's not a massive thing, but it's also huge in that we're taking that, that step. So I love that you touched on that. The other thing that you said is doing things that you love again, creating that space. And those kinds of things sound like a way to listen actively. Because you did say people should listen like to that voice. And I feel that one way to listen is to definitely say, oh, okay, I used to like doing this. What happened to that? Let me do that. What other ways would you say you listened to yourself? Or what other ways would you tell other people, like based on your experience, this is how you listen and you expand from just paying attention to that voice in your head? Because it's one thing to sit down and listen and journal.
I want to start off by explaining there's two different voices. There's the voice in your head, the one that's programmed, the one that it can be a bit critical, like the inner critic type voice, the one that's saying, no, you're never going to do this. You don't know what you're doing. You're fine where you are at, like all of that kind of language. And that is programmed in your mind over years and years and years. And usually when you're very, very young, maybe you had a critical parent. Maybe you tried something exciting and got shot down. And now your mind is telling you, don't do it. Just stay where you are. That is different from the inner voice I'm talking about, which comes from your heart. So first, that's kind of why I was talking about doing things that you love, like shifting your perspective from what's going on in our busy minds into our hearts and listening. So that voice is more loving, it's more excited, it's more like optimistic, like what's possible type of feeling. So you can tell the difference. The cool thing about it is that heart voice is you and the mind voice is just a part of you. So like it's just that fear part of you. But that doesn't mean that the rest of you is like, I can do this, right? And that's why sometimes we can push through that or we can see that and go, okay, I understand why maybe this is coming up for me, but I actually really want to do this. So I'm going to let that go and move past it, right? So those are the two we want to be careful about because it's like, yeah, I listen to myself and I'm going to fail at this. I'm not going to do it, right? There's a difference between the two.
I love that you pointed out the differences between both. And I'm just laughing here because of the example you're like, yeah, I am listening to myself. I'm gonna fail. Hopefully, I'm gonna die. This is gonna hurt. But no, it's very, very helpful. So when we listen to the heart voice, right?
Mhm.
And the heart voice tells us, "Oh, wow, Kepo, you used to love to paint. What happened to that? Oh, let me go pick up some paint and just do that." Right? I feel that the more we listen to that heart voice, the clearer it becomes and the more progress we actually make towards, building or living the life that we actually really want to live.
I could probably give you like a zillion ways. It starts with noticing the space. So, most of us, and this is not a judgment, this is just how hectic and busy and our lives are, go from one thing to the next. And even when your car, you put on music or a podcast. And when you get to work, you're doing emails. And if you have a free second, you might be checking Instagram. And if you have you know what I mean? So there's a lot of input coming in constantly. Like online, it's the attention economy, right? Everybody's getting your attention. And what I'm saying is give yourself that attention. And even if it's start really small, if you're like, okay, I'm so packed, give yourself 5 minutes, 10 minutes of just space. And I tell you what, it's quite uncomfortable because our habits are so ingrained. It's like that instant gratification dopamine when you pick up your phone and do something. I'm doing something. But there's so much you're missing on within yourself. And so you don't have to be you can journal for sure if you like to journal. Some people don't like to journal, but if you do, take 5 minutes and journal. If you have 5 minutes before a meeting, don't just jump on your email or your phone. Just take a pause, take a few breaths, feel your body, look around. Ask yourself one question like, hey, what would I love to do tonight? That's it. Like, just start asking yourselves more questions throughout the day. And the answer doesn't come up instantly all the time. Sometimes it pops in later, but still ask yourself, hey, what would be amazing this weekend? Or what was that thing I used to love to do? I don't even remember. It's been so long, and things will start coming up and you'll notice it. But I don't know about you. I had shut down myself and my voice for so many years that it's not an overnight process to all of a sudden and say, what do I want? Because I stopped asking myself what I wanted, because especially when I had a career, it's like, what does my boss want? I have a husband. What does my husband want? I have kids. What do they need? It stopped being about me and it was about everybody else. So it takes quite a bit of unpeeling to get back to what is it that I actually want? What do I think about this? Not what does he think about this? And what's great about it is it builds, not only does it build that openness and your connection to yourself and your heart, it helps you become a better leader, decision maker, find your authentic voice. For people that want to stay in their careers and understand how to do that, you need to know what you think. And it doesn't have to be like I have to present a 20-page, spreadsheet or PowerPoint on this topic. It starts small.
This is so, so good. I love all the points that you're touching. And something that strikes me is I love the way you've broken down for people. This is what it means to listen to your heart. It's not even about, oh, let me stop and listen to my heart. It's literally about creating the space for that. And I can so relate to that. When I used to just go boom, 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 boom. I remember one time committing to my coach that, okay, before another call that I have, I'm just going to pause for just the 5 minutes before the call, because I would go from one thing to another to another. And then by the end of the day, I've run myself so ragged. I feel so spent. And I'm thinking, but what did I actually do? Right? What did I do? And I so agree with that. Like the more we give ourselves that space, the more we can even start to expand, and the more we can even start to actually hear
Mhm.
what we think about something, as opposed to other people's voices and other people's opinions. So real quick, I know that we didn't touch on how like you actually transitioned from 9 to 5. So I just want people to hear that part of your story. So it took you a year to a year and a half, right, to finally quit from when you had that light bulb moment.
Yeah.
So how did you decide that, okay, this is actually what I want to do? And what are some scary things, whether small leaps or big leaps, that you did to actually finally launch the business?
It was a longer process because I think I really needed that time. So I spent a few months figuring out I'm not ready to retire, right? I'm leaving to do something else. And I kind of had a blank sheet of paper like, what else would I want to do? And looking at, okay, what do I love to do? What parts of work do light me up? Like, what kind of impact do I want to make with people? Because that's important to me. What are my values? How do I want to structure that? Like, at some point, it became very clear that I didn't just want to go work in another industry because I wanted time, I wanted freedom. And so what that meant for me was to really be able to dictate my schedule and say, this is how I want to work. I just want to work a few days a week, or I find working every day, but I want to have a lot of space in between to do stuff with my kids. And so it was really getting clear about not only what I wanted to do, but how I wanted that to look. And that helps basically take out a lot of things. Like if I'm not just getting another job at another corporate place, okay, off the table. And then you could just start to get clearer and clearer and clearer. And so I decided that I wanted to do coaching and work with individuals to help them transform in some way, shape, or form, like, Kepo, you want to say start a business, I'll help you do that, or career or leadership or whatever. And I wasn't exactly sure, but like I loved working with other people to help them get somewhere from point A to point B or be better at what they're doing. And so I decided I was going to play with that. So it wasn't just like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it. So I was going to test that out by signing up to get training to be a coach. So I went through training to figure out, is this really it? Not only to learn the skill set because I could use that set in my current work. If it didn't work out, if I said, I thought coaching was going to be X, Y, or Z, but I went through the training and I decided, actually, I don't really love it, So there's a lot of room to play around and figure it out. Because I think that's what happens is when we feel like we have to decide and then we can't change our minds. And we can change our minds, and it's getting into that different mindset. So I was playing around with coaching and decided, I do really like this. And I'm going to move forward in that direction. And so then I started to get some clients, some like pro bono type clients, just to coach them and see what they thought. And then I got some, paying clients. And then so I started to sort of play in that way, like I could do this. And around of that, I was working on some of the things that I already discussed around, deserving to leave, talking to my family about it, getting my husband on board because, I had just gotten a promotion. We were buying a house. Like, what do you mean you're just going to say no to this money coming in every 2 weeks? So we had to get a plan in place. And I really wrote like a business plan in that sense for him because I wanted him to see, okay, like here's what's possible realistically. Although I will say it's always slower than you think. So it's the overlap you're doing is great, Kepo. And I will tell you, don't let me forget, I will tell you why I decided to leave my corporate job before I had like a huge business set up. Like, so I convinced him and part of it was, I think, my determination. I think he saw that I wasn't going to give up on this after I did a year of training and I was doing, some clients on the weekends and whatever. And so he's like, okay, if you want to do this, let's do it. And I literally talked to my boss the next day. I'm like, I'm not letting this simmer. I'm ready to go, which was so crazy because I felt so bad because he answered the phone and I said, how's it going? He's like, yeah, everything's going great. But I feel like there's a shoe about to drop, like something is going to happen. And I'm like, well, you might be right because on that point,
Now that you say that.
yeah, I've decided to put in my notice. And it was just, shock, right? Because I was a good employee and I was his right-hand person and all that. So I went piece by piece, step by step. And we'll never know what are all the steps going to be, but once you take a step, you start planning out the next step. And once you take that step, you plan out the next step. And when you get resistance on that step, you look at yourself and go, where is this coming from? And you listen to yourself and you try to, work it through. And you get support if you need support. I had skills from learning, going through being a coach to be able to self coach myself or talk to people in my network and notice the types of things that were coming out of my mouth, right? Like being really self-aware. And so I would really advocate for just take a step, see how it goes, plan out the next step, get a support system that believes in what you want to do. Because good or bad, like family wants the best for us. And that comes out in their fears because they would never take a leap. They see the security. And that's because they love us,
1000%.
but they're projecting their fears onto us, right? Like so get support that's there for you, like where you want to go. And just take it one step at a time. And it's quite exciting and never forget, go back to what we talked about before, like what is your reason? That why, right? For me, like I said, at some point it was freedom, being able to decide how I use my time. I was so done with other people saying you need to do X, Y, and Z. And I knew X, Y, and Z was a waste of my time. And so that was a big thing for me. And so, what's the big thing for you? And remind yourself of it because that helps us keep ourselves motivated. And I can't advocate for more around taking the space to listen to yourself. That will help you if you never, ever leave your 9 to 5 and start a business. That will help you in your 9 to 5. It will help you be a better decision maker. It will help you come up with differentiated creative ideas. It'll help you know what you want to do. It'll help, it's like
There's no losing in
there's no losing on
yeah.
that step.
Yeah, there's no losing. And the other thing that sounded like was an important criteria for you is who you also want to be, right? Not just your why, because you said that for you was very important that, it's you're someone who has an impact. And
Mhm.
I think that is just so awesome. So how are you helping people now and how can people reach you if they want to help, if they want to work with you?
Yeah. So now I'm really focused on, like you mentioned, I'm a leadership and career coach. And people come to me because they have a challenge, they're ready for the next step, a promotion, a changing career, that kind of thing, or they're having a hard time, they feel stuck. And what happens is that I help them figure that out. But what they really wanted is that deeper level, like feeling more confident in themselves, knowing what they actually want and feeling like they can go for that. So there's a lot of pivoting like, "Oh, I wanna go do this," and then I work with my client and they're like they figure out what they actually wanna do, and then I help them figure out their confidence comes through when they're listening to themselves and we're really I'm pointing them out like, "Hey, this is your life and let's figure this out for you." And so that's where I love the empowerment part of it.
Mhm.
And it's a big fluffy word, but it can be done where you can I worked with somebody who was kind of a negative person and she was like, no joke, I am the like optimistic person in my friend group now. I give them advice and it was a change in the mindset and also like going from the cynical part like it won't work for me to actually seeing it work. That's a big difference. Like I did this and it actually helped. Great. Now I can get on board and that cynical part of ourselves will start to slow their roll
Yeah.
and let
Yeah.
the
Exactly. Because
yeah.
you're creating evidence for your
Yeah.
brain to be like, yep, no, I did that and I can do it again. Or I pushed past that limit and I can do it again. And
Mhm.
that's so good. There was another thing that you touched on, and I think it's so important for the people listening. You used the word, I'm just going to play with this.
Mhm.
Then you said that for you, it was just about doing the next thing and the next thing. And finally, You did not feel that, oh, once you make a decision, that's it. It's final. It's permanent. You gave yourself that room to just be flexible in your thinking and not be so, final. This is the end. And I think that's what keeps people stuck sometimes. Like they're afraid to make a decision because they feel that, oh, now I'm just going to be stuck in that forever. And what if I find myself back here again where I'm not happy? Because after all, I was the one who decided back then to follow this career, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. You said I should remind you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it's funny because I knew deep down that if I stayed in my 9 to 5, I wouldn't actually put my all into my business because I'm not that person. I would be comfortable, I would find an excuse, I wouldn't do it. And so for me, I literally had to stop the one thing. And I also have 2 kids. And, so I could see where I have a certain amount of time in my day and I didn't want to make it a side hustle. I wanted to dedicate the time only to the business. And so it's really about knowing yourself. Some people can do it. I just knew that I wouldn't. That I had too many fears and things holding me back that I would just let it go if I didn't just leave the one thing.
That is so brave. That is so, so brave of you. And I just commend you on that. So if people want to work with you, Loree, how do they reach you?
Yeah, yeah. People can find me on my website, wesparkcoaching.com. I do have the Daring to Leap podcast, which is on Apple and Spotify and all the places. And I'm actually really excited because I'm revamping my YouTube channel. And so you can find me on YouTube. There isn't a lot there right now, but I have like so much content that I'm repackaging to put out. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be on
Um,
fire.
yeah, it is. It's at Loree Phillip Coach
Okay,
on
awesome.
YouTube.
So we're going to link all of that in the description for everyone. This was so good. I learned a lot. I loved how you differentiated between the different voices, the ways to listen to your heart, and how it's about, just giving the room for that. It's just everything, just not worrying about trying to get all the steps in and just one step after the other. Any final thing you want to leave the listener or people watching with, especially those who are maybe the former you, right? They are actually comfortable. They're fine. Yeah, comfortable in their job. Yeah.
Yeah, the comfortable one is interesting because I want people to know that they can choose, that they're that powerful. They can choose. So what if, play around with it. What if you got to choose? What would you love to do? And so that was something was interesting because I was on a podcast as a guest, and the interviewer asked me, "What would you tell your 21-year-old self?" And I ended up crying on the interview. But what I had said was, and it came out of like nowhere. I said, "You are more powerful than you think you are." And I felt that because my 21-year-old self was scared and lost, didn't know who she was. Like, that power is in you, and the root of it is knowing what you want, feeling that confidence in yourself, believing in yourself, knowing that there's more for you if that's what you choose. Like, I am a big advocate of being intentional. So if you choose to have your 9 to 5, great, make it an intentional choice. I choose this career and I'm going all in if that's what I want to do. And that helps you let go of the guilt that's there of you thinking, well, maybe I've been kind of wanting to do this other thing. Like, just decide and be okay with it. Or if you want to do the other thing, don't give yourself crap for not being there in your 9 to 5 at full capacity because you're also working on something else. So intentionality and really believing that there's more for you if you choose it. Like, if you're comfortable, great. I'm so happy for you. I mean, we need people in the workforce. We can't convince everyone to leave, and we
No, it's not
shouldn't.
for
Yeah, it's not
everybody.
for everyone.
Yeah, it's not for everyone. Wow, this is so great. So many mic drop moments. I love how we started this episode. We're like, oh yeah, it's gonna be 35, 40 minutes. And here
Yeah, I
we are.
saw that
This
too.
is so good because it's so, so good. I really love this. And yeah, I can't wait for people to find you and just, work with you, especially when you're going through any transition. This was really good, you all. Thank you so much, Loree. This is amazing.
Oh,
Thank
thank you,
you.
Kepo. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in to Grow with Kepo. If this episode sparked something for you, subscribe, share it with a friend, and keep growing.